Welcome to Design to the Nines. I'm Natalie Callahan, and I hope this video finds you safe, healthy, and well. Today I'm launching a new series on my channel called Craft for a Cause, and today's episode is being sponsored by Cricut. For this episode, we're going to make this face mask with a pocket for a removable filter. I'm going to make mine on my Cricut machine, but even if you don't have a Cricut machine, you can still do this project and cut these by hand. And if you stick with me to the very end, I'm going to let you know about a no-sew option. I'm so excited to show you how to make this, so let's get started. Now, many of you may know from my community page posts that last week, in the middle of this global pandemic, I had to visit the emergency room. And while I was there, I got to witness firsthand the problem of face masks. And it really broke my heart when I saw all of these nurses in the emergency room not wearing face masks. And one that really got my attention was a pregnant woman, no face mask. And that really upset me. So when Cricut reached out to me with their face mask mission, it was a no-brainer for me to help. So the first thing that we need to do is select two different fabrics. Now the reason why we need to do this is so that you know which side has been outside exposed to germs and which one is on the inside, so you don't accidentally put it on the wrong side. I know that this is kind of a juvenile fabric, but I decided to go with some superhero fabric that I had on hand just because I feel like our frontline workers are all superheroes. And then I just selected a coordinating fabric. This green polka dot seemed to match, so you could just use whatever you want as long as they're contrasting. Start out by cutting your fabric to 7 by 12 inches. If you are using a Cricut Explore Air 2 like me, and you plan on cutting out your fabric on your machine, you will definitely need to bond your fabric to something to make it a little stiffer. A lot of people recommend using freezer paper for this process. However, I didn't have any on hand, so I went ahead and just used some Wonder Under, which actually ends up adding 4 extra layers to the mask, which to me is an added bonus of extra protection. But I do want to stress that this part is optional. To make it stiff enough to go through the cutting process, I use my Cricut Easy Press to bond the Wonder Under to the back side of my fabric. You could definitely use a regular iron as well. Then you want to put your fabric face down onto a green mat or a fabric mat. I didn't have a fabric mat, so I used a green one. You do want to make sure it's a newer, stickier one, because otherwise it won't hold the fabric down well. After you cut it out, just pull it off the mat and then remove the paper backing. After I remove the paper backing, I then press this white cotton sheet that I had on hand, which we'll be using again a little bit later, so hang on to that. Then I just cut out the shape by hand. I repeat this process for the coordinating fabric. If you are not cutting your fabric out on your machine, you could always cut the pattern on your machine using some cardstock. No Cricut machine? No problem. Just go ahead and print out the pattern on your printer and cut out by hand. Whichever method works best for you is perfect. Now, all of the patterns and all the varying sizes are included in the link provided in the description box below. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a white ribbon, it is a salute to all of those medical workers working the front lines of this global pandemic. They are my superheroes, so I'm going to be wearing this around in my house. Now we're going to start out by sewing the curved portion on both sides first. If your needle is set to the center, then the edge of the presser foot is a perfect guide. Then we're going to make some V notches around the curve so that when you flip it out, it will help prevent puckering. And then once we're done with that and we've got it flipped right side out, then we can take it to the ironing board and iron out the seam. Since it's curved, I use the tip of my ironing board, which I have to be honest with you, I hardly ever use, and it worked great. We're going to do a top stitch by folding the excess fabric over to one side and stitching on top of the fabric, very close to the seam. Once we've top stitched both pieces, then we're going to join them together by placing right sides together. Pull out your pins and pin the pieces together on the top seam, starting at the center and working out so everything lines up nicely. Then sew them together. At this point, we are going to hem one side. This will be the side for the filter pocket. You can pick whichever side you want. I ended up doing this on the right side. Now it's time to talk about ties versus elastic. The original Cricut pattern has a beautiful design for elastic. I haven't been able to get any elastic. I ordered some off of Amazon weeks ago and it's not gonna probably come in for weeks. So I've just been making the ties out of some sheets because it's what I had on hand. And I also heard that the elastics might, after a while, start to irritate the ears, and so the ties work out really nicely. Now obviously you don't need to use bed sheets to make these ties. You can use any kind of fabric cloth that you would like. You're going to cut it about 1 3/4 inch by 18 inches for each strap, and you will need 4 straps total per mask. I just tear mine because it tears on a straight line and it's much quicker this way, and then I cut it every 18 inches. Then you're going to want to make sure these are nice and pressed with an iron before sewing them into the ties. Start by taking one strap and folding one of the short edges down. Then you're going to take the two sides and meet them in the center. Then you're going to take that and fold that in half. This helps prevent any kind of fraying on the straps. Then you're going to carefully place the end underneath your presser foot and manually stick your needle into the fabric. Once that is holding it into place, you can pull out your strap and bring the folds down a little bit further so that you are able to sew. You're going to want to make sure you backstitch and sew it close to the edge. You do not need to finish the end, but I would backstitch that also. So if we were going about things the proper way, we would do all of this and iron it nicely and maybe even add some pins. But you know me, I like my shortcuts, and this seems to work out just fine for me. But if you're not confident about it, do the same process of folding it down and folding it in, and then iron that, and then fold it in a half again, and then iron that. And then if you want to add some pins, because if that makes you feel secure, then go for it. But this is me and my little hack. This has worked out fine for me, and it's a little bit quicker. It saves me some time. If making these straps doesn't work for you, of course you could always do the grosgrain ribbon, so that's an option as well. If you're making it for the medical community, I would suggest doing the fabric ones just because I think that they'll be more secure and more likely to stay into place. But if you're making it for, you know, other people, other essential workers like grocery store or your family or whatever, where they can readjust easily and retie if they need to, then go ahead and use the grosgrain ribbon. I did this a little out of order, but I'm going to be putting it in order for you, so hopefully the steps make sense. You're going to start by sewing 2 straps to your finished hem side and line it up with the edge of the hem on the inside. I put mine on the front mask side. Make sure you leave enough room at the top and the bottom for seam allowance. That ends up being around 1/2 inch or so, and then you're going to want to baste those into place. Remember to stick with me to the very end if you're interested in that no-sew option. I'll tell you where you can find that. Then you're going to want to put straps on the other side, lining them up with the edge, making sure you put everything into place. Feel free to let the straps hang out the open end. Make sure you pin everything in place before you sew it on the remaining 2 sides, and make sure you leave that pocket open on the end. Then you're going to want to clip your corners on an angle without also cutting the thread. Then you're going to flip it out, and you can also like tug on the ties to help you pull it through. And then if you need to, take a pair of scissors and use them to poke out all of the corners. You may want to press all of the seams prior to top stitching all the way around. This just really finishes it off and reinforces the mask and helps it to be much sturdier. All right, with our mask done, isn't this awesome? It's so perfect. I love it. And you can tie it up top and on the bottom. It covers up like an N95 mask for those. If not, here's another option for you. So we've created a little pocket that we can put a removable filter insert. And the way I am making mine is out of just one of my air conditioning filters I already had in my house. I just figure a little extra protection wouldn't be bad, and then you can take it out when you wash the face mask. The way we're gonna do this is I am just ripping off these yellow things, and then I'm just gonna make it out of that, and then we're gonna use our pattern. I used the pattern to cut out 2 pieces of the air filter, and then I cut a little extra off the top and the bottom so that it will fit inside the finished mask. Then all you need to do is just sew a seam on that curved edge again, and then it's time to put it inside. It's a tight fit getting it in, but that makes me feel like it will stay in place well. If you're interested in the no-sew option, the link for that is in the description box below. I made this face mask for my friend Stacy, who's a nurse practitioner working on the front lines of this crisis here in Florida. So I'm gonna get this one over to my good friend Stacy, safely of course, as safely as possible. I'm really happy with how these turned out. A lot of health workers are using them over the top of their N95 masks or other surgical masks to lengthen the amount of uses that they can get out of them. Some hospitals are not accepting these face masks, but I think that they would be great for nursing homes, for other essential workers. I think of like all of the people who are working at the grocery stores as an added layer of protection for your own family. If you enjoyed this episode, here's another one that I think you'll like as well. And until next time, to all of my DIY Niners, I hope you all stay safe, healthy, and well. We'll see you soon. Bye.